Good morning. My name is Vanita Boswell, and I'm going to confess I am not an expert in technology, so I'm going to take a moment to see if this computer's plugged in first. There we are. Great. So I want to thank the conference for having me here today, and I especially want to thank Lisa. She reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of this morning, and I was very excited to be, and it's just amazing to see a room full of change makers. So thanks for choosing to be here today. I thought I'd start off first to tell you a little bit about my story, because I think storytelling is really, really important. My bio's in the program, it's there. I have about 20 years of experience in marketing, integrated brand marketing, cause marketing, fundraising, but my story really began when I was 6 years old. I was 6 years old, we were on our 4th trip to India, it's where my family's from, and we were going to my father's village in India, and the car broke down, and I saw a little girl on the side of the street about my age, and I asked my dad, what was she doing? My dad explained to me, she's poor, she's hungry, she's asking for money, and so I in turn asked my dad for money. My dad gave me money, I went over to the little girl, and I put it in her hands, and I turned around, and I looked at my mom, and I was like, why? You know, I'm 6 years old, why is this happening? And she explained to me as much as she could the reality of the world in a few moments. And then I told her fiercely that I wanted to take her home in my suitcase. I said I would leave I started to negotiate with her. I was like, I will leave all my stuff out here if we can just take her. And she explained to me that if I take her, there are so many children in the world. And she said, one day you will come back and you will help these children. So I tell you that story because it has actually become the prism with which I look at my own brand, and it's really the basis of my brand platform. So I thought today we could focus on a couple of different brands. We could go through some case studies of some brands that I've worked with and see how they've really used the power of imagery to leverage marketing, communications, and fundraising. So today, the first one we're going to look at is the Girl Scouts. So how many people here were Girl Scouts? Raise your hand. Amazing. And how many people here have bought or eaten Girl Scout cookies? Almost everyone. Exactly. So I served as the Chief Development Executive at the National Organization of the Girl Scouts for 8 years. I oversaw fundraising, I oversaw cause marketing, and integrated brand marketing there. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about today, it's amazing. The first panel did a great job because it kind of weaves nicely into what I wanted to talk to you about. But so Girl Scouts, a 103-year-old institution, empowering girls, the largest girl-serving organization in the world. It's in 145 countries. And so with that organization, we went through a rebranding. And we did that before our 100th anniversary in 2012. And when we did that, we got blasted by the media. We paid a lot of money for rebranding, got blasted because they said that it looked as though the logo just went through a facelift. So the image of the girls that you see in the trefoil, and so then our 100th anniversary came and we were like, we have to do something big. What do most organizations do? They go through a rebranding when it happens to be one of their celebratory years. Instead of doing that, we decided, what would it look like if we knew what our brand was, we knew our brand identity, but we didn't have a brand platform. And as I mentioned before, that's the prism with which you do everything in. You do your HR function in that, you do your finance function in that. It's a lens that you look at your own brand through. And so we decided, well, if we could come up with a brand platform, for instance, does somebody know what Nike's brand platform is? So I'm hearing a lot of just do it. That is Nike's tagline. Their brand platform is, if you have a body, you're an athlete. So the distinction there is everybody in that company knows that that's their brand platform. They don't talk about it. It doesn't go out there. They don't market it. It's just that's how they approach any situation or any problem that needs to be solved internally. So at the Girl Scouts, we came up with a brand platform that's imagine what imagination can do. And so we launched a volunteerism campaign through that said, I can't wait to, ... And then we launched a fundraising campaign that I oversaw called To Get Her There, Invest in Girls, Change the World. And so I wanted to take you through some of the imagery. So here we used the medium of photography to really inspire donors, to inspire advocacy out there. And So I was wondering, one of the people that raised their hand that said they were a Girl Scout, would they like to volunteer and read something for me? Is there a brave volunteer here? Thank you. I'll guide you through.
You know it when you meet a Girl Scout. A Girl Scout shines, reflecting the confidence her troop has ignited within her. A Girl Scout sees herself in the stars. A Girl Scout raises her hand to lead the experiment. A Girl Scout takes action, investing money from her cookie sale right back into the community. A Girl Scout learns how to build a fire within her own heart. For over 100 years, we have encouraged girls to proudly do anything they set their sights on. At the Girl Scouts, we know that when girls are given the opportunity, they change the world. We have the reach and the experience to help girls lead everywhere. We are transforming the world. 59 million Girl Scouts alumni from every U.S. zip code in 94 countries. 2/3 of female congressional leaders are Girl Scouts. 70% of professional women are Girl Scouts. Nearly every female astronaut is a Girl Scout. We know what it takes to get her there. To Get Her There is the largest fundraising campaign for girls in history. Help us reach 1 billion for girls by 2020. 91% of every dollar goes directly to girls, and 100% of girls will change their world. Invest in girls, change the world.
Thank you. So we called that our manifesto. And what we did with that, and just to tell you how kind of, you think Girl Scouts, large budget, huge organization, almost $1 billion in cookie sales yearly. When I was given this task, we basically had no budget. So what did I do? I went and found my wedding photographer in Fort Worth, Texas, who happened to be a lifetime Girl Scout. And she did all these photos for us pro bono with the Girl Scout Council. And this is the imagery that went out all over. So I just encourage you, don't let a budget scare you. Ask, 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 and collaboration is key. Speaking of collaboration, when the question happened earlier about what do you do when two like-minded organizations come together and they stand together and you want to have brand distinction, actually look at what you can create because you are like-minded, and that's the messaging that you come to. So what we did with collaboration to achieve this $1 billion is we worked with and through the local Girl Scout councils. So the national organization worked with the local councils. They're all independent 501c3s because it's federated. And we actually ensured that we had the same kind of fundraising messaging that went on, that the collateral looked the same. We created toolkits. So it was a great way to leverage online platforms for our organizations on the ground to be able to understand, well, if I want to do a cause marketing campaign, what's the imagery I need to use? What's a particular ask I need to go to for a corporate foundation? How is that different when I'm writing a proposal for an individual or if I'm trying to seek a major gift? So collaboration is key. Also, one thing I wanted to include also was the messaging that we had to shift. I don't think a lot of you knew probably until we went through that what your cookie money even goes to. It's the largest financial literacy program in the world. And in certain areas around the United States, girls will fund local communities or local charities with their cookie money upwards of $7 million. So if the cookie sale actually went away, organizations would unfold in the United States. So this platform actually gave us a chance to talk about our brand and talk about the goodwill that it's doing in the world. The next organization that I wanted to talk about is the Make Them Visible Foundation. So the Make Them Visible Foundation raises awareness and funding for organizations combating hunger and homelessness in the United States. So this organization is the brainchild of Dr. Craig Mays, who's the CEO of the New York Rescue the New York City Rescue Mission, which is the oldest homeless shelter in the U.S., and it's right here in your backyard. I don't know if a lot of you know this as New Yorkers, but homelessness has reached the highest it's been in New York City since the Great Depression. According to the DHS, the budget for homelessness, the government's budget for homelessness in New York City is around $1 billion. And the fastest growing population of homeless here in New York is women and children. So this foundation is existing to not only represent New York City, but how do organizations on the ground work collaboratively to come together to ask for greater funds and to raise awareness. So I worked with the CEO of the New York City Rescue Mission, and we created a short film, and it was done pro bono by Eric Silver at McCann & Erickson. Again, went out, we asked, and someone delivered to us. So I want to share this with you.
My sister and her family have lived in New York for like 8 years now. She took care of me when I was a little kid because my parents were working.
Every Sunday I cook, and so my uncle calls me and he'll be like, hey, what you making?
Nobody meets in bars anymore, but I met my wife in a bar, and 34 years later, still working.
My grandma had a lot of costumes from the theater that she started. When we were kids, we'd dress up in those costumes and we'd put on little sketches for the family.
My whole life, I've always felt like we were like a team, my brother and I. I think there's nobody who can understand you quite like your family.
That's my cousin.
That's really weird.
She ain't even look.
I know she's not homeless because I just hung out with her a couple weeks ago, but I mean, I did not know that that person when I was walking by, it was her.
It's, and things are a lot more real than you expect, so.
Thank you. So every time I see it, it still hits home. The short served the purpose of humanizing the homeless. It's the fact that the homeless is someone's mother, sister, daughter, son, uncle, grandfather. And so one question that was asked on the earlier panel is, how long do you want these films to be? And my suggestion is, like they said, target your audience and then see what you're trying to get across. What's the messaging you're trying to get across? We felt like we couldn't do that in 30 seconds with this film. We had 5 million hits on YouTube in 2 weeks. So that was huge. The founder, Dr. Craig Mays, was interviewed with Diane Sawyer. I mean, he was all over the place when this came out. And it did not serve as a fundraising film. It served just as a raising awareness piece, but now it has become the name of this foundation that we are actually launching this week. The other bit about it was a huge surprise when just 4 months ago it won an Effie, which, if you all know what Effies are, it's the highest award in advertising, so it's kind of the Oscar of advertising. So it beat out Coca-Cola, Heineken, Newcastle. So it really was, we were one of 2 nonprofits that night at the Effies that won an award, and I think it really kind of shifted the perception in the room that really cause brands can advertise. My organization, so my firm, Valo, it's a social impact firm, we are working together with the Make Them Visible Foundation. Again, collaboration is key. So we're working with the foundation to better understand the grassroots movement on the ground. How are organizations really combating hunger and homelessness? How are they working together? How can we join forces to go out there and bring and shine a light on this issue and really talk about investing in lives, celebrating lives, that homelessness is not a problem to be fixed, that these are people's lives to be gained. So it's quite an honor to be working with that foundation. The next story that I wanted to talk about is Runa's story. So I am the producer of a documentary called Rooting for Runa that takes place in India. So 500,000 children die a year in India due to birth defects and congenital anomalies. And so, like I shared with you my personal story growing up and my mother saying that I would come back and help children, my life did come full circle. So I'm actually working with India's only social justice film company, and we created this film. And I want to be able to share you a little bit of this trailer.
If that one photograph of the baby and the media hype had not happened, who would have known where she would have been buried somewhere?
আমি তো মনে হচ্ছে হিনো চিকিৎসা হলে আমি ভালো হয়ে যাবো, হয়তো ভালো হয়েছে না। রাতে আর পরে লাস্টে এরা সিরিকশন করাইছে, নিদাবিগুড়া থেকে সিরিকশন করাইছে, মাথার ভিতরে জল আছে, তো ওরা বলছে তীব্র কোনো চিকিৎসা নাই।
রুনার নাম এমনি আমরা বাড়িতে জান্নাত কইয়া ডাকি, বাবা মা জান্নাত কইয়া ডাকি রুনারে, আর এমনি তো কাগজপত্র রুনা বেগম নাম।
Our photographer, AFP's photographer in Tripura, sent in about, I think, 3 photographs of baby Runa. It's unusual to see such advanced hydrocephalus. I mean, we have to do something.
How does a person who gets sick in the village, how does he access healthcare?
The short answer to what's the situation with regard to babies with congenital anomalies and their management in India is that hardly anything is being done so far.
Being poor in India is a crime, but being poor with a serious, very serious medical ailment is like a crime with the death penalty.
যেরকম তারা নিউজ কইরা পত্রিকা বা কেবল চেবেলে উড়াইছে, তখন আমরা মনে করছি যে রুনারে নিয়ে আমরা বাইরে চিকিৎসা করতাম পারুম, চিকিৎসা করলে রুনা ভালো হইব।
When I was told first on phone that the head size is 36 inches, I didn't really believe that. I thought that the person is mixing inches with centimeters. I was not really prepared to see what ultimately I saw.
আশা করি ভালো হইব, তো মনে না যে নরমাল বাচ্চার মাথা যেরকম ছোট গুল গেল, মনে না আর কি এরকম ছোট গুল গেল।
It's a story about, 2 people, one of whom is barely an adult himself. He was 17 when she was born, and how they have raised a child against what many would consider insurmountable odds. It's a larger story about how the world can sort of come together to try and help somebody so far away. We all seem to want to believe in miracles, and I think this is a story that does speak to that.
So we've used this, thank you. Runa's picture was released on the AP on The Wire. It was showcased all over CNN, all over the world, and within 24 hours, one of my best friends who owns this media company in India arrived in the village to meet this family, and somehow this incredible family gave her the rights to the story. She called me 48 hours later, sent me a picture of Runa and said, "Are you in?" And I was in. So we are just towards the end of finishing the film. It gets completed by the end of this year. We are in our last stages of fundraising for it. It is all over the news, the media in India. The government is actually now working with us. I think they were a little bit fearful before because we're talking about the rights that women have in prenatal care. Bless you. And we realized we couldn't do this alone. We realized that this film had to become movement-based, that we didn't want to just leave you here, the viewers in this room, not knowing what to do. So we reached out to organizations we felt like could partner with us. And so we reached out to 4 different organizations that have a really incredible space in India and are doing just really wonderful work. And so when the film comes out, and we have gotten invitation from Sundance, Tribeca, and South by Southwest, it'll be one of the first movement-based documentaries that any one of these film festivals will feature. That when you, the viewer, watches this, that you know where you can invest, you know where you can advocate, and you know with who you can volunteer. And so I strongly urge you, when you're building out your brands, again, collaboration is key. When you're using the medium of video, or another thing we did with Rooting for Runa is we created a crowdfunding campaign, used video in that. It was huge. We were able to use marketing communications to raise funding, but that you just really look to the organizations that are like-minded, that are doing the same work that you're doing, and you partner together, strength in numbers. So many of you want to know how Runa's doing now. This is her currently. This is me and her this past year. She has won the lottery. She has a lot of people that are looking after her, that are paying for her surgeries. She has a resilience in her that I have never, ever encountered in my life. The doctor said that she would never be able to speak. She would never be able to kind of have a cognitive state of when you're talking to her, her understanding. I just got word 2 weeks ago that she said her first word, and it was mom. So it just shows the power of getting the message out there for people to be able to see what you're doing. So yes, just keep doing what you're doing. And thanks again for having me here today. I appreciate it. I have like 5 minutes. Are there any questions from anybody? Yes. Can I give her a microphone? Does that?
How did you approach McCann Erickson? Because I've approached advertising agencies before, and they're like, that sounds great.
Right. You've probably always approached the gatekeepers too, right? So I'm sure you guys know that in the industry, there's a gatekeeper. Okay. Well, I think that one thing is you've got to massage their ego too. So what's in it for them? And that's part of what happened to us. The creative director, McCann Erickson, Eric Silver, owned an agency before, and that agency came, and so, and he wouldn't shoot me for saying this, but he really said, "I want to stay out of hell. So what can I do? What can I do for you?" So, which was just his way of being like, as an advertising agency, we do a lot of work where we're pushing consumerism and we're pushing people to buy product. How can we help you on the cause side? And they actually came with the story for us to do, and we weren't happy with it, and we said no. And within 48 hours later, we came back with the story, and then, you know, now he has an FE. So I think that it's okay to say no, it's okay to hear no, but then it's going back and seeing what's in it for them, looking at what they've done with other kind of, have they been with a Unilever, a Coke, or other corporations doing cause campaigns, and how can it benefit them that way? They approached us, but we said no, because we weren't happy with what was going on. They knew about homelessness. So they came to the organization, and I was working with the organization, so that's it, yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Hi, can you talk a little bit about what questions you ask when you're developing your brand platform? Because we all have slogans and logos, but I don't really know a lot about the brand platform.
So one thing, it always helps when you do have someone from the outside coming in to work with you on this, quite honestly, because sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees, right? But two kind of exercises you can do is an internal brand strength audit, so you can actually meet with your teams, hear them, hear what's going on with programs, here's what's going on with marketing efforts, here's what's going on with development efforts, IT, operations, for them for you to understand from your own teams what they think about the power of your brand, and then also to go outside and ask your funders what they think about the power of the brand, potential funders. So it's really doing kind of a inventory about your brand or an audit. The other thing is a needs assessment. I would sit down with your teams and do an exercise that's called got it, need it, won't do it. So what are all the assets that you have? You have a newsletter that goes out to this many people. You have this many donors. You have, you know, this many videos. So that's what you have. Think about what you need, what's in your budget. What are your objectives for the next couple of years? What are the target goals that you need to hit? And then think about what you won't do. What will your brand absolutely not do? If you have a list of, if you are a membership organization, you won't mail out, you won't give out names of the people in your organization. Like, just make a list of things that you wouldn't do if a partner asked you to do that. Does that help? You're welcome. Okay.
Okay. The question that I have for you is in terms of strategies that you use for branding. When you decided to name or brand your organization and start off, what were the strategies that you used in order to pick out a brand for your organization and advertise it? Because you know, the previous speaker said that the branding is very important in the sense of creating a unique strategy that doesn't that doesn't have to clearly disclose the nature of the organization, but I mean very clearly, but that it also helps in targeting the audience. How do you go about that as well?
So I'm not gonna, you know, it's a funny thing because I was learning a lot too this morning. So I'm gonna take you back to even just my brand, which is just kind of hot off the press. So I decided last year to kind of go off on my own because I wanted to work with, I had always been an entrepreneur. So I worked inside organizations like the UN, the Acumen Fund, other organizations, and I helped build up the organization. And then I thought, I got this entrepreneurial bug in me. So I was like, okay, I'm done being an entrepreneur. I'm gonna go out and be an entrepreneur. So I did that. So I started my own organization. And so I battled with it too, even with my logo. And so what helped me with my logo was that I realized that I wanted to pick and choose and really get to know the organizations that I'm working with. And I didn't want to grow my own firm out very large. And so I kept a little bit of a mystery around mine, and mine really was I wanted it to not be transactional. I wanted, if someone really wanted to know about me, I wanted to sit down with them and have a conversation with them about what it is they want to do in the world and what I want to do in the world and where our synergies lies. I think with other organizations, if it's an iconic brand, then yes, you need to be able to look at the logo and kind of, it needs to spark some type of meaning or feeling. But I think if it's an organization that's just starting up, you really have to figure out who is your audience, what is it that you want to do in the world, and then create your messaging around that and really focus on outcomes too. Like, whatever your tagline is there an action with the tagline? And is it also saying what you're going to do in the world? So with the Girl Scouts, it was very clear when we did the To Get Her There campaign, and the nice woman who read for me, it was hard when she was reading To Get Her There, right? Because it's a play on words, it's together there, because we can't get her there unless we're together. But it was very clear the tagline was invest in girls, change the world. So I think it's just about getting to know your audience, figuring out the messaging, and then also the outcome that you're trying to create with your brand. I hope that helps. That was a very big question, so I wasn't exactly sure how to directly answer that. Thank you.